council wishes here. Representative Fabian.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. And before I forget, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask for a roll call on this.
Representative Fabian has asked for a roll call. Representative Fabian to House File 3759.
First, let me say I've been a strong advocate for the Line 3 replacement project. And largely because I represent the great folks of Northwest Minnesota who, based on their comments made to me in the testimony that they've shown and given at hearings in Thief River Falls, and the fact that they showed up wearing their green shirts and so forth, supporting union jobs, those folks very, very strongly support the Line 3 replacement project. I attended 2 hearings in Thief River Falls last fall on this, and I was very, very impressed by the presence and the decorum of the people that attended the meeting from that area that supported the Line 3 replacement. My hat is off to them. I really admire the LGUs that showed up there, the school districts, the townships, the counties, the first responders that talked about how important the Line 3 replacement project is to their local economies and their local school districts and so forth. Yesterday it was reported that Cenovus Energy, a Canadian oil sands producer, is cutting production because of a lack of pipeline capacity. This oil company wants to sell more of its product in the world market, but it can't find a way to get its oil to its customers. And some of those customers are right here in Minnesota. I know a lot of people in this room will hear this news as an encouraging development in the war on fossil fuels. You know, and I respect some of that. Yet the state's Department of Commerce maintains that the Line 3 replacement project is not needed. And there's no longer any demand for crude oil. Everyone has apparently changed over to electric cars, kind of like Chair Garofalo. Not sure, but both of these things can't be true, members. Either there's no more demand for crude oil, or there's so much demand that oil producers are having to cut back production because of the lack of pipeline capacity. You know, I don't know which one. I'm a FIAD teacher and a track coach from Northwest Minnesota, and I live in my real world and the world that is the people that I represent. And this project will create many much needed jobs and economic activity. And not only will it create jobs, but it's going to sustain a lot of jobs up there and economic activity in northern Minnesota. And it's going to create additional tax revenues for local communities, as I mentioned earlier, our local school districts, townships, counties. And the direct impact in towns like Hallock and Carlstead and New Folden, where these workers come up and spend the summer working on a project, and the money that they spend in the local grocery stores and the cafes and the gas stations and all those other places is something that's really, really needed in our small communities. And if you've spent any time in Northwest Minnesota and a lot of what I refer to as deep rural Minnesota, this economic activity is vital to the people and our local governments. The language in House Files 3759 is essentially the same language that Chair Garofalo included in his amendment in last year's omnibus bill. Those opposed to this amendment argued that we needed to let the process play out and to not short-circuit the work of the Public Utilities Commission. Since last May, the process has played out. All the public hearings have been held. I'll check that. There was one in St. Cloud that didn't get held because of the ALJ canceled that in St. Cloud after significant disruption in the one in Duluth. All the evidentiary hearings have been held, all the testimony offered, all the exhibits collected, the final impact statement has been issued and accepted by the PUC. All that's left is these final decisions. If we don't act on my bill, the PUC will decide the fate of Line 3. And the PUC, and you've heard me.
Folks, again, whether pro or anti, if you could keep applause, hissing, booing, laughter, general reaction, please try to keep it to a minimum just so we can conduct the business of the committee. And that goes for whether there are proponents or opponents of the bill testifying. I would expect the same on the other side. Representative Fabian, please continue.
Thank you, Representative Fabian. Very well.
Sure. Representative Fabian, you want to move the microphone a little bit closer?
Sure.
To you?
I'm sorry. You know, I've expressed some concerns, and I've attempted to possibly do some reforms of the PUC. I'm frustrated, and personally, I'm not after the PUC members personally. I know they have a job to do. They've been appointed to the positions that they're in. But you've heard me express my concerns about the lack of what I refer to as rural representation. I feel like a broken record when I talk about this. The distance from this capital, the average distance that the members of the PUC live is less than 20 miles. There's no one who serves on the PUC who's north of Ramsey County. I've expressed my desire to try to figure out a way to get more regional representation on the Public Utilities Commission. You'll hear this afternoon, and you may have heard earlier, how this decision must be left to the technical experts at the PUC. Members, all of the technical work has been done on the application, and the proposed route has been completed. There's no more what I refer to as technical work that needs to be done. All that's left is the decision, and I'm concerned that it may become a political decision. Should the PUC side with people who are opposed to the pipeline, or should the PUC side with the communities and the people of northern Minnesota? And this stretches all across the northern tier of the state. It goes from North Dakota over to Duluth. I don't believe it's a technical choice at this point, and I'm concerned that it's becoming a political choice. The PUC, according to the reports that I've seen, is not planning to issue a decision on this project until after the legislature adjourns. I'm concerned that the people in northwest Minnesota and across northern Minnesota are going to ask me when we're all done, should the PUC decide to not move forward with this project, I'm going to go back home, and they're going to be disappointed, and they're going to say, what did you do? What did you do to represent me? What did you do to represent us to make sure that the Line 3 replacement gets done? And that's what I'm doing here today. I'm representing my constituents. And anybody who knows me knows full well that I represent my constituents with a lot of passion, and I respect everybody else here who represents their constituents with a lot of passion. And we have a very short construction season. You know, this isn't Texas. It's pretty hard to put a backhoe into the ground and dig a trench in January and February and March and those times of the year. If you spend any time in Kittson County or Marshall County and Pennington County, you know that our construction seasons are very short. I want to move this bill forward. Today is the day to show your support for House File 3759, and I look forward to a nice conversation with you folks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Fabian. Commissioner Lumen. And then on the next on the testifier list, I have Ron Wetzel. And then, first of all, I want to apologize if I say anyone's name wrong. It's happened to me before too, but Shania Madison?
Got it.
Okay, so you two are on deck, and feel free to come down as soon as the commissioner is done. So welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record. And first of all, welcome to the committee for your first time as capacity as commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that, and thank you, members of the committee. And I want to thank Representative Fabian for a very thoughtful conversation about this.
Commissioner,
However,
you do have to introduce yourself.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you already did. I'm Jessica
Oh,
Lumen. I'm
you have
Commissioner of the Department of Commerce now. And thank you. Well, I'm glad to be in the front of the committee. The administration opposes this bill, 3759, for several reasons. First, the PUC is the appropriate venue for the decision about whether Line 3 should be built. Thousands of Minnesotans, state agencies, Enbridge, tribal governments, labor, environmental groups, the administrative law judge, other stakeholders have all participated to provide input into this important decision. And the PUC is charged with weighing all of the information is received in a judicious and objective manner based on facts associated with need, impact, and benefits to the state. Second, House File 3759 allows Enbridge at its sole discretion to construct the Line 3 pipeline on its preferred route. Not only does this provision negate the routing permit process, it also allows Enbridge to acquire land for a private commercial purpose. 3759 disregards tribal treaty rights and the wishes of other private landowners, and allows Enbridge to construct Line 3 on its preferred route without regard to the impact the route would have on the surrounding environment. The environmental impact statement process that is currently underway at the PUC allows for independent scientific evaluation of the proposed project and project alternatives to identify the route with the least environmental, economic, and societal impacts. Enbridge should not be allowed to build Line 3 before this process is completed because Enbridge's preferred route may not be the best route and in the best interest of Minnesotans. Decisions on routes and route alternatives are best dealt with by the impartial venue at the PUC as opposed to through a private business's decision. Third, circumventing the permitting process may put Minnesotans at risk. In this case, risks include accidental release of toxic and combustible materials from pipeline failures or hostile actions. This is a great concern because House File 3759 does not address oil spills, oil spill cleanup, assurances, financial insurances that would need to be made to the state and its citizens that would otherwise be addressed in a permit actually issued by the PUC. Finally, under this bill, Minnesota landowners, businesses, communities, and residents may end up with a pipeline project they don't need. The Certificate of Need and Routing Permit process of the PUC seeks to avoid the building of unnecessary and costly facilities in our state. The PUC can take into account all of the facts, data, science, and technical expertise that has been provided during this process and all of this data has been developed and shared about this project, and the PUC can provide a determination about whether the Line 3 project is needed for the benefit of Minnesota. Thank you for considering the administration's opposition of House File 3759. We hope this information is helpful, and I urge the committee to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Commissioner. And Representative Mahoney, we're not going to do questions of each. You want to correct Representative Fabian?
So long as the commissioner sticks around to a point where I can question her about the statement to Representative Fabian.
Well, Commissioner, do you have to be in another committee hearing, or are you going to be sticking around?
I can be here for if you need me.
Well, just go ahead and ask her now. But go ahead.
Representative Fabian stated that the Department of Commerce said we don't have any more need for oil, and I thought the statement was that the Department of Commerce said there was an adequate capacity. Did you at any time, or did your agency at any time say that we didn't need any more oil?
Commissioner Luman.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Mahoney, again, the technical work that's been done by longtime regulatory staff stands on its own and is before the PUC, and really debating the merits of the application is not appropriate at this time in front of this bill. This is about process and ensuring that the PUC can evaluate the work that the Department of Commerce has done, as well as all of the other stakeholders that have provided input into the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. So thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Wetzel, if you want to come down, and then Ms. Madison, if you want to come down as well. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
How are you?
Hey, Dan.
Oh,
Representative
great.
Fabian,
Thanks.
if you want, maybe. Oh, we got another chair. Never mind. We're good. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. The name is Ron Wetzel, W-E-T-Z-E-L-L. Weren't we just here? Oh, right. It was in the closing days of the 2017 legislative session, I think, when Representative Garofalo inserted language into the omnibus bill that would relieve Enbridge from needing to obtain a certificate of need from the state of Minnesota for this project, and prevented any governmental function, office, or person from considering routing that altered from what Enbridge stipulated. I think that's right. Two things struck me then as they do now. First, in effect, Enbridge is asking to be relieved of the burden of meeting Minnesota standard regulation for these projects. Secondly, wanting to be relieved from customary standard regulation has to be tacit admission by Enbridge that they hold a weak hand with regard to the merits of the case. Evidently, meeting the standard of customary Minnesota regulation is too onerous of a threshold for Enbridge and this project. As we go forward and through the motions of public comments today, let us all be clear-eyed and recognize that in the same way that you had the votes in hand last session to push this through, everyone has to know that you've got them in your back pocket now. So after you push this through and stand front and center, preening among yourselves for being Enbridge's water boys, don't go too far, because there is an ill wind that will follow. Certificate of need, oh my, that is just too unreasonable. Comprehensive analysis of routing, oh, that is such a waste of time. Tribal cultural survey, please. We've steamrolled indigenous nations from day one. Why would we stop now? Congratulations for bringing Standing Rock to Minnesota.
Ms. Madison. And then Stan Sattinger. Stan?
Hello. Thank you to the committee. My name is Shania Matson, and I split my time between Minneapolis and Aiken County, which is where I'm from, northern Aiken County. I was there early this morning taking a walk with my 2 children, right where Enbridge wants to put their oil pipeline, across the Willow River and the Mississippi. And I thought to myself, how am I going to explain this to my kids? How am I going to tell them that their neighbors and their government have agreed to let a corporation not only put an oil pipeline here, but fast track an oil pipeline through a wet, swampy ground across living rivers, risking all of our lives? I'm not a professional lobbyist, and I'm not an activist. I'm ashamed, actually, that it's taken me this long to come and testify at one of these hearings. I've made public comments, but this approval process has been very confusing to me and to my family and to the people in my community, who, you're right, do want jobs and need jobs. But no one ever seems to ask what kind of jobs. We just respond to projects that get proposed by people from outside. I've looked at the EIS and I've looked at the maps, and I also grew up on that land, and this project doesn't make any sense to me. The route doesn't make any sense. I left my hometown when I turned 18 because there were so few choices for jobs, and because I wanted to see and experience the world beyond the place that I grew up, and I'm really glad that I did. Sometimes you have to leave the places you love to appreciate how special they are, and to understand how special you are, to come from a place where people still have a connection to the land and water that sustains them. We can still swim in the Mississippi River, where I come from. This isn't true where I spend most of my time now in Minneapolis. Most of my neighbors and friends, even the ones who think of themselves as being very aware of their environmental footprint, don't know that their drinking water comes from the Mississippi. And they don't know that that same river will be put at risk by the pipeline if it's built. So this water connects all of us, and I think all of us haven't done a very good job of considering the ways that we're connected to that water and how important it is to us. The groundwater in Aiken County, if any of you have been there, it's a very wet place. It's very pure groundwater that's been protected by those wetlands for generations. Those generations include my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, and now I'm looking for ways that I can get back to my community and help protect that water. And I'm worried that if this pipeline is built, we will have very few choices of what we can do there. Because if you've been there and you've stood and you've looked at the river and you've looked at those wetlands and you can imagine a pipeline tearing that up. I've been to visit pipeline projects projects and seen what they do to the land. And I cannot imagine how you could do that and still have a range of options for jobs into the future. And not only jobs, but our lives. When the climate changes, which it is, when it's warmer and we don't know what we will need to do to live and survive or how much we will need that water to be clean for future generations, we're just closing off choices that we could have, and that really, really concerns me. When people in my hometown are sick or they need help with something, we come together, we throw a potluck, we hang out, we help each other solve those problems. We don't ask, what's the profit going to be? You know, we don't ask, is this going to help a company that's never cared about this place before and probably won't after they get their project done? We gather and we do that, and I think we need to gather now and ask ourselves those questions. It's actually too late, it seems, if this bill goes forward and this is just fast-tracked. What ways of life are we willing to give up to turn a profit for companies like Enbridge, and how do we plan to heal the rifts that this is already creating? I brought water with me today. I have it in my bag if anyone wants to try a drink of it. It comes from a farm that was on the pipeline route, and the farmer decided not to sell her land. She's been bullied by Enbridge, her neighbors. Now there are people who were friends and no longer talk to one another. So I'm concerned also what this does to the fabric of the social fabric of our communities. I've traveled to a lot of places where projects like this have happened, and what happens to the land happens to our communities. It happens to our bodies and it happens to us. In those places where projects like this are allowed to be fast-tracked, people are pushed around too. They get sick. You know, what we do to the land, we do to ourselves. And so I'll just leave it with that. I really am opposed to this project. I haven't been as engaged as I should be, but I am now. And I am in support of the people who are resisting this project. And I'm also concerned with fast-tracking this, that it's going to lead to violence. Because I've heard that police departments are prepared to, you know, for another Standing Rock. And when we get all hyped up like this and we're divided by money and politics, nothing good can come from that. And so I hope those are also things that you're considering. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Sattinger? Folks, again, please. Please. And then Greg from Duluth, Greg, is it B-O-E-R-T-J-E? Okay, so you're on deck. So welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. Yep.
Okay. Chairman Garofalo and members of the committee, I'm Stan Sattinger. I'm a licensed mechanical engineer and have followed and testified in PUC's crude oil pipeline cases on Line 67, Line 3, and Sandpiper. I want to go on record as completely opposed to House File 3759. This act was clearly devised to greenlight the Line 3 replacement project proposed by Enbridge. But it's totally open-ended, meaning that tomorrow, if passed, developers could arbitrarily identify proposed routes and proceed to build any pipelines they want to, with no organized considerations of the results of doing so. The consequences would be much like a transportation company putting some lines on a map and proceeding to build a railroad through private property along these lines, totally unrestrained by any requirements to assess the resulting social and environmental impacts. This apparently happened at some point in our history, gauging by our common references to the term railroaded. We must not revert to this way of conducting infrastructure projects. The application of Minnesota rules, chapters 7852, excuse me, and 7853 to the need and route permits for Line 3 or any other pipeline would be dismissed under this proposed act. Obstructed would be the consideration of such key questions as: are there already adequate supplies of crude oil to Minnesota? Is there a more reasonable alternative to the project? Are the consequences of denying the certificate of need more favorable than the consequences of granting it? Has the project been shown to satisfy all relevant policies and regulations? In short, Would the project be beneficial to the people of Minnesota? For new pipeline projects, these assurances would be totally eliminated. The public's rights under state law to the protection of irreplaceable resources would be violated, and our climate, food, and drinking water would be placed further at risk. For Line 3, many of these issues have already been partly addressed in a contested case before the PUC. The Line 3 case should be allowed to conclude without the interference of this proposed act. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your testimony. Is it Bordeaux? Is that how you say it?
Borchi.
Borchi. And then Michelle Nar, you're on deck. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Greg Borchi. I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, northern Minnesota, in which there's fierce opposition to Enbridge Line 3. I can attest to that as I was at the hearing that the PUC was holding. I wanted to say that I'm also a veteran for peace, and I'm aware that at Standing Rock, 1,000 or more veterans for peace went to stand with the water protectors. I'm aware that Enbridge has studied Standing Rock, because I asked that question, and Paul Ether said yes, they had studied Standing Rock. I just wanted to put a couple things in context. In the news, we do see quite a bit about fossil fuel companies. Maybe everyone is already aware that New York City has announced they intend to sue fossil fuel companies. They say it's comparable to cigarette companies. Fossil fuel companies are responsible for killing people. And then, I did just a Google search this morning. I'd heard before that Arnold Schwarzenegger had given a speech about this topic. I did the Google search. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a former Republican governor of California, gave a speech in Texas saying he intends to sue big oil companies for first-degree murder. He said that they are knowingly killing people all over the world. Oil companies knew from 1959 on, because they had done their own study, that global warming is partially due to fossil fuels and that it would kill people. The last thing I want to say is that it was a surprise to me to hear that this bill was happening this week. I just happened to be on Facebook and get this notice, but it does seem appropriate. For those of you who might attend Christian churches, this is known as Holy Week. On Sunday, we had the remembering gospel of Jesus entering on Palm Sunday. This is the week that Jesus disrupted business as usual, turning over the tables in the temple, saying, "Stop the exploitation of poor people." This seems to be very appropriate that this bill is trying to continue the crucifixion of Jesus today, crucifying in poor people, many of whom are natives who are fiercely opposed to this.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Nair. And then Mary from Stacy, Minnesota, Mary Dalkowski. Mary, are you here? Is that okay? So you're on deck. Come on down. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Nar, and I come from Duluth, Minnesota. First, I want to say that I'm having a hard time even understanding why we are doing this, how this could even come to this stage. We have a series of checks and balances. We have processes and we have requirements that are set up to protect the people and the land that's held in common. The Public Utilities Commission has been set up to take all of this testimony that you're hearing again, this was all, I was at 2 of those hearings, here in the cities and the one in Duluth. Much of this testimony that people are presenting right now, the dangers of the oil company, the threat to our lands, the overriding of the sovereign land that was ceded to the Anishinaabe people in the treaty rights of 1854, 1855, they are all being just walked right over. This was the task of the Public Utilities Commission, to take all of this testimony that has come from the 8 different places, the 8 different cities, and all of the people that represent large groups and organizations, and then take that and make a decision. You aren't capable of making a decision like this. You haven't heard that testimony. That's their decision. And we're hoping, we're putting our faith, we're putting our lives in their hands, because we see this as a direct threat to our lives. And we don't have to look too far to see how lives were eliminated and threatened. You can look over in Kalamazoo. This company has a horrible track record of responsibility and safety. The federal government forced them to fix all of the lines that are at risk after the Kalamazoo disaster happened. Line 5, I understand, from the same company, still has bent pipes. Why? Because they were placed under the Straits of Mackinac. They weren't given the proper stability to handle the currents that would hit them. Now they've bent, and there's a disaster waiting to happen. Take the money that you have in your company, in their company, and fix that. Hire people, hire local people to fix that. Those are jobs. And they tell us that they invest in clean energy, in green energy. We'd be welcome to, we'd be happy to work with them on projects like that. But you don't have a foreign company asking you, Mr. Fabian.
No one asked me.
No one asked you? You okay.
Nope.
There's a foreign company here that is putting the seeds in people's minds to walk through our communities and put us at risk. This is a shame. This is a shame that we are talking about bypassing state legislation, laws, rules, checks and balances, processes that we have put in place. To just walk over them is a disgrace. I don't know, maybe that's something that y'all do in Canada, that people do in Canada, but it should not happen here. That's not what our country has been set on. The people that I guess I should say for the record that I oppose HF 3759, if that hasn't already come out in my testimony. I strongly oppose it. There are thousands of people who oppose it, who have registered their voice, and their voice needs to be taken into consideration by the people that heard it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Delkowski, and then Kathy Hollander from Minnesota 350 Climate Solutions. Kathy, are you here? Okay, so if you could come on down so we're ready for you. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name's Mary Delkowski, and I'm new to this process. I've never done this before, and I can feel my heart beating. What is in the best interest of Enbridge is not in the best interest of Minnesota. And as a Minnesotan, I object to Enbridge circumventing the process that is already in place. As a citizen, I'm trying to figure out how things work. And it's really not an easy thing to do. But I made my way over to the PUC for weeks of testimony. I heard a lot of expert witnesses that were promoting risk to our water to pipe tar sands from Canada to Wisconsin for refinement to sell overseas. I didn't hear a jobs plan. In fact, I heard testimony that there were very few jobs. I didn't hear any benefits to Minnesota or Minnesotans that they would receive from this pipeline that mitigates the risk to the environment. After listening to all that testimony, I had to trust the system, and it seems to be a very slanted system in favor of Enbridge, a foreign shipper. So while I wait for the system to do his work, House File 30, oh, I can't even. This House file came out. And it comes before you to circumvent the system that I'm just trying to figure out. So I oppose this bill, and I urge you to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Hollander, and then next, also from Minnesota 350 Climate Solutions, Nancy Ballou. So you'll be next after. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed to testimony.
Kathy Hollander, and thank you, Representative Fabian, for sharing your comments and how this bill was originated. I appreciated hearing it from you, and I hear your passion, and I think you're hearing it from us as well. We're equally passionate. I'm a full-time volunteer with Minnesota 350. I do talk to people here at the Capitol. I would love to be retired and stay at home, but I can't because I know what's happening to the climate. This past Sunday morning, someone else referenced that, I saw a parade of puppets being carried in by children into a building. The puppets represented bringers of justice, people who speak against power. They were papier-mâché heads on sticks with handmade signs written by children. Malala, Martin Luther King, Winona LaDuke was even on one of them, and I had nothing to do with this. Pink hats, pink. Student protesters read these signs. I can't help but think that the fossil fuel industry is probably the most powerful industry in the world today. The industry has had an incredible run, but there's a problem. There's excess carbon and fine particulates in the air that's affecting our health and climate. Our winters are warming on average. We're having more intense rainfall events. Minneapolis and Fargo are among the fastest warming cities since 1965, according to Climate Central. Weather disasters are starting to cost more. That's what drove me out of my house and brought me here to the Capitol. The fossil fuel industry has a big footprint here at the Capitol. The Campaign Finance Board mentioned $5 million recently spent by Enbridge this year. The industry, I would say, is not used to being challenged. They're kind of having a hard time with it. News that their products and the way that we transport them, pipelines, might not be as welcome in the future, comes as hard to them. Pipeline companies are guaranteed a rate of return if they build a pipeline. So whether or not the pipeline is full, they are guaranteed a rate of return. This is a pretty simple bill. It just proposes to remove a proposed project out of an existing process at about like 5 minutes to midnight and immediately give a green light to a very specific tar sands crude oil pipeline. This project was forced to have the first ever environmental impact statement for a crude oil pipeline in Minnesota by an appellate court, thanks to a suit brought by the Friends of the Headwaters. It's really shocking that there never was an environmental impact statement before in Minnesota for a project that's over 300 miles long, over 5,000 acres. I think it's high time that we had an EIS. An appeal at the Minnesota Supreme Court was turned down. That was a challenge to the industry. But as Representative Fabian has pointed out, that process is now done. The EIS was declared adequate. And the only other remaining piece, Representative Fabian also referenced, the administrative law judge report is due in less than a month, and then there's a PUC decision in June. This process is almost completely done. I understand that the process at the Public Utilities Commission is quasi-judicial and buffered somewhat from politics. I think we've written in our Constitution in the state of Minnesota that we have these three branches of government: the House, the Senate, the governor, and the judiciary. Just like the House and Senate here are controlled by one political party, the 5 commissioners have been appointed by the other party's governor. I understand that's an irritant, but we have to live with this if we have a civil society. We can't pick and choose the results of the election. People have already pointed out that there's about 5 main factors that are involved in a certificate of need and routing, and the decision by the Public Utilities Commission on the certificate of need. There's all kinds of subpoints underneath them. And agree with the previous testifiers that the administrative law judge and the commission must now weigh such important facts as the energy information administrative data that the demand for finished petroleum products in Minnesota is down 19% since 2004. They must weigh the effects of the emerging electric cars and electrification of transportation. And by the way, Americans consumed less gasoline in 2017 than they did in the previous year, according to Reuters. The Commission must consider how much oil is going for export in the form of finished products. The United States is now an net exporter of finished petroleum products. They must decide whether the net jobs repairing line 3, old line 3, versus people being employed to maintain a new pipeline are worth the impact, and whether the potential destruction of sacred wild rice beds and the impact of the descendants, the impact of this pipeline on the descendants of the original people of this land and animal habitat are more or less impactful than the profit of the industry. They must weigh whether an increase in carbon emissions through increases in electricity and pet coke, a byproduct of processing tar sands oil, are important or not. I ask you to vote no on House File 3759, and I remember those that speak out against power in order to bring change to our society. I ask you to vote to allow the process that's currently in place to continue. Minnesota 350 seeks a sustainable, just future and a safe climate for us all. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Dawn Goodwin? Dawn Goodwin? Okay. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with the testimony.
My name is Nancy Bolio, and I am a member of the Leech Lake Reservation, and I'm also a northern organizer for Minnesota 350. I come here today because I was given the opportunity, and I thank you for that, to urge you guys to oppose House File 3759. I have had some opportunity to review the EIS in regards to my tribe and similar tribes as well that are, involved in this. What really broke my heart was the disregard Enbridge had for our treaties in that EIS. But publicly on commercials and in newspapers, they tell us they work with our communities. And that breaks my spirit, because I am a real person, I am a part of the community, and I was in Duluth when that isolated incident took place, and we come in a good way, and when we do have isolated incidents, they should be treated as such. We are stigmatized as protesters, but actually we're here to demonstrate our value for life. So what bothers me the most is there was never no EIS until the Friends of the Headwaters took it in their heart and worked hard and made this possible. But prior to that, that never took place. So because our Native people are the forgotten people, our treaty rights are still disregarded and dishonored. Well, we're still here. We're educated, we have morals, we have families, we have our boundaries. So what I find maybe why all this happens is because our people aren't at the table enough. So just recently I got involved with attending a caucus. I became a delegate, and then on March 4th, I attended our Beltrami convention, and I went on to be an alternate. And prior to that precinct caucus, I wrote a resolution with a good friend of mine, and it involves treaty rights. And it's on the slate for the Congressional District Convention in Duluth on April 4th. So it's still there. And I feel that we had to put them back on the table, because when we don't, our autonomy is disregarded by companies like Enbridge. And it threatens our culture and our well-being. And I just wanted to say that I wanted to make sure that we're at the table and included, and I think the EIS that Enbridge has, or the Minnesota PUC has approved, it doesn't involve us the way it needs to. So today I got a little opportunity to talk about it, and I'm going to do that. So I want to know, I want you guys to know that in northern Minnesota, the reason why I'm there, Minnesota 350 just recently opened the office because there is that opposition up north. We don't want that. We know there's a little bit jobs, maybe 20 jobs after the pipeline goes through, and as a Native American community, we have missing and murdered Indigenous women, and there's a correlation with man camps. So when these men come into our towns to do their projects that Mr. Fabian mentioned earlier, our people have safety issues that most people don't want to talk about. So I think it was important that we are included. A ceded territory. We are autonomous. We walk with a good heart. We've been stigmatized as Native American activists, but we're not that. We're everything but that. So I ask Enbridge not to do this to us, because if you are working with your Native American communities, you already know at the PUC level, you left us out. And rushing this bill today does the same thing. So I think, you know, I was given that opportunity to speak. That's my First Amendment right. But when he and similar representatives push these bills to hinder my First Amendment, because you know what? Yeah, you all heard PUC, we went to the hearings, but then they did this. Our voices are nothing then. You take that away. And I'm here to stand for my people, our treaties. 2020, I'm new to all this, but we're learning, and we have more delegates. We have like-minded non-native relatives, our friends. They're with us now. We're good people. And I feel this whole process excluded the Native American people, and we thought genocide was something of the past. But I ask you guys, please consider all people, including us, and make a better future. We know that there's renewable energy, and it's creating a lot of jobs. Look at the statistics. We don't need that oil. It's called transition. Yeah, we all don't have those electric cars right now, Mr. Fabian, but we're going to work on it. So I urge you guys to oppose House File 3759 and let it follow the processes that were put forth to protect people like you and people that are here everywhere, regardless of their culture and their race. We all need that water. So I thank you for your time, and I urge you guys to oppose House File 3759.
Thank you for your testimony. Alice Madden? And has everyone had a chance who wants to testify to sign up on the testifier list? Okay, so we'll, this will be the final list we use here then. We have, I have 3 people on the list who signed up in advance, and then 5 who signed up on this list. So welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Gagayashi Conditioner Cause. Don Goodwin is my English name. Gawaba Biganika Gindunjaba, Maingandudame. I'm from the White Earth Nation, of the White Earth Reservation, member of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, and I'm from the Wolf Clan. I come here today to urge you to vote against this HF 3759. I brought some things with me today, some teachings, that when you talk about things of nature, that they need to be present also. And that's why I have this basket here today. I have wild rice, Monoman, from the very lake that I live next to, which was hand harvested by my family members. I have cedar, sage, sweetgrass, and I have Labrador tea that's collected near the proposed route. I come from this area. I live in Bagley, Minnesota. I also have water here from a flowing spring just off Lower Rice Lake, which is connected to Upper Rice Lake, which is right next to the proposed, Enbridge's proposed route, their preferred route. As you see, I'm the only one from my community here today. This is very, very important to me, and I need you to understand how important it is that I came here, the only one from my community, because I hold this dear. It's what I've been raised and taught all my life. I went on with life after I turned 18 and went to college like I was expected to, and I wanted to do that, better my life. I was every major you could think of. I started off in art. That was where my heart was. And I was always steered away from that because art degrees was not easy to come by jobs, especially in the northern Minnesota. So I was always steered away from that. And then I went into political science. I left that. It was not where my heart was, although the interest was there. I went on to mass communications. That wasn't for me. I didn't like to get up and speak in front of people like I am today. And then I went on to English. All these things interested me. And then I realized, oh, you have to take a whole semester of Shakespeare. No, not a chance. I wasn't going to be an English major at that point. And so I continued on taking the classes that I was required and taking classes that were of interest to me and where my heart was. And as I was going through and looking in my filling out stuff for the grad plans and figuring out what I had to finish taking, everything lined up for visual arts and Native studies. So I continued, finished that up at Bemidji State University, and I got my visual arts degree. I was one research paper away from getting my degree signed in Native American Studies. And during that time, the question was, for my research paper is who's failing. So I started to write it, just thought I could write this fluffy research paper just to get it done, and I was like, okay, it's pointing to our systems and how our systems are broken, and at the government level also, not only at the school system level. Of course, everybody has a piece of that puzzle. The student has their input, families have their input. So we all have to work together. But what I realized at that point was how much our environment was connected to our education system. And what we were teaching our children was just to carry on with life, climb that corporate ladder, and make all the money you can to be successful and have status. Needless to say, I never finished that research paper because I couldn't call people out. I'm a nice person. I didn't want to call people out and say, well, it's your problem, it's your fault, you know. So I just let it go. So at that time, my interest was piqued, and I started learning about tar sands oil. Well, what is tar sands oil? I never heard about it. So I started studying that. And I urge you to study what is tar sands oil. Canada and Enbridge do not like it to be called tar sands oil. They prefer bitumen or dilbit or oil sands. So I come to this, and I read the EIS, and what really stood out to me is because I'm interested, of course, in the environment. Like I said, I was interested in all kinds of things. And what stuck out to me was in chapter 10, 2 and point 1, that there's little research on the toxicity of dilbit on organisms. So that really worries me. And this is a study that was put out by the National Academy of Science. And that I'm going to reference here. And I think you need to know what is in oil sands. So I'm going to read just a little blurb here. Monoman, wild rice, is a cultural and highly prized food source for the Anishinaabe. This is an important food source for birds and other animals also. It is an organic grain that grows naturally out of water and has been named Minnesota's state grain. Monoman is reliant upon high water quality, hence the 1973 sulfite standard was established and put in place. The possibility of diluted bitumen entering the wetlands and waterways would degrade water quality and would be catastrophic for wild rice stands. Diluted bitumen contains volatile organic compounds, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, monoaromatic hydrocarbons, hydrogen sulfide, toxic metals, and other uncharacterized chemicals. These hydrocarbons, namely the more water-soluble ones, such as benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, xylene, and naphthalenes, are known carcinogens that move easily in surface waters and aquifers. Oil and water spreads instantaneously, which increases a negative footprint on the environment. In addition, increasing sunlight exposure on the weathered bitumen increases toxicity, therefore presenting a hazard to aquatic life. Furthermore, due to the greater volume of resins and asphaltenes present in bitumen, The residue becomes adhesive and is non-biodegradable. This adhesive property hinders a cleanup because it sticks to rocks, vegetation, and animals. Bitumen also sinks in water. Prolonged exposure to sunken and sticky bitumen increases toxin exposure to people, plants, and wildlife. Wetlands are important ecosystems that are protected and should remain so. In the event of a spill, weathered bitumen contains a large amount of residual oil that becomes highly adhesive when absent of diluents that evaporate, which makes it more difficult to clean up. This residual toxic, sticky substance would be impossible to clean in entirety, especially in remote, hard-to-reach wetland areas that contain aquatic life, such as our culturally significant Mahnomen. The certificate of need, and this should not be granted by the PUC, and I urge you to oppose and vote this down. 3759. I come from this community. This proposed route is right in my community. This is where I go to exercise my treaty rights, because there isn't much places to go on our reservation. We only own 12% of our reservation. And part of that 12% is marshlands and wetlands. So we need to go out of our reservation boundaries to live a sustainable life. This is part of my life. This is how we live. I pick that tea. I collect that water. I drink that water. Our community depends on that water. When the storms came through, where did our community go? They went to the well to get water, just on the other side of the lake and down the road from me. That could be in danger. And you're just taking a risk. That pipeline would cross wetlands, rivers, tributaries. And I want you to look at the map that was given. I didn't bring it up. But you can see there's the boundary of the reservation. And on the right side of that boundary, it's chopped off conveniently right now, which is still in dispute. That is disputed townships. And I want to mention something here. Those disputed townships are federally recognized. You cannot change the boundary of a reservation. It's a federal boundary. And we do have, and that's where that proposed route would go, right on the corner of our reservation, and then right next to us. And the water comes to us, flows onto our reservation. And then we need to think about why do we have that 1855 treaty? Why? Why do we have that? You need to ask yourselves that. You need to look at that state flag back there with a farmer with a plow, hand plow, and a native. We were living side by side. How can we continue to live side by side? That's what the 1855 treaty is about. That we can live side by side, and that we agreed that you could come and live, and that we would live peacefully. But we did not expect a bitumen tar sands pipeline to be shoved down our throats, right through the heart of our 1855 treaty area, and then want to be abandoned at that. And Enbridge likes to play with words. It's not a replacement pipeline per se. It's a replacement and a relocation. So I think a lot of people that are so in support of this are complacent. They don't understand all of this. It's hard to understand all of this. There's so much more to this. I could go on and on and on. So I'm going to mention this CFR. It's a Code of Federal Regulation 42. It's a White Earth Farm Chemical Code. And that it's a unique MOU, and we're the only one in Region 5 that has this out of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. And that we have the sole authority over state to regulate sale, transportation, and application of chemicals of a pesticide nature, registered or unregistered, across the border or our boundaries. So that current preferred route that slices our reservation boundary, federally recognized, and right now it's conveniently left off the maps. And it's obvious, you can see it if you look at your little map there. And it's still in dispute. And so we assert our treaty rights, especially our water rights, because all that water flows towards us. And in the whole region, the water flows in every direction, south and east, north and west. The bulk of this pipeline goes to Clearbrook, which is in Clearwater County, where it's named Clearwater County for a reason, and we want to keep it that way. So, like I said, I could go on and on. My name that I got is Everlasting Wind. And like I said, I didn't want to get up in front of people and talk and do what I'm doing now, but I have to. I want to be doing my artwork and just have my little painter hat and whatnot and paint away and learn my language that I have been trying to learn, because for some reason there was a disconnect and I didn't learn that language. We won't go into that right now. But it was very important for me to come because this is my community. These are my people. And I'm not the only one that goes in this area. We know there's 3 pipelines, or maybe 2, of what I understand, which the Koch brothers own. We know they're there. We know there's risk already there. And what I understand is crude, sweet crude. But now, and is anybody looking at those old pipelines that are in there? They're going to need some repair too. So is that right to put a pipeline in somewhere else and you don't even know what to do with the old ones that are in there already? You really don't know. And also, there is very little information or technology. There's little technology to clean up tar sands oil. All they have is these little, they call them diapers, that soak up the top layer of stuff. But like I said, tar sands sinks in water. And from what I've learned about water quality, these rivers have increased turbidity in them. Well, with increased turbidity, that tar sands is going to stick to the turbulent items in that water. So there's a lot here at stake. And so we were at the table with Enbridge and White Earth. I took back just about a year ago in March. And they said, well, we'll go around your upper Rice Lake. We'll just build these little elbows and stuff and go around your lake. And then, so then you guys will be happy. Well, we know that elbows and those are areas of weakness. So you're going to build something around this lake that has more potential for weakness, but yet you're supposed to make me feel better? I've been given permission to speak for our elders. And they wrote a resolution, and we've submitted that to the PUC. I've been to many PUC meetings giving testimony over many years, including with the Sandpiper. So I urge you to think about all these things. I gather across the pipelines that are there already and go and pick my berries. I go sit in my places of solitude, pick medicines, all in this area because it's close to home, just right next door. And there's much private land all the way around me, and very little bit of it is owned by our reservation. So I urge you to not pass this bill. I also speak for our traditional people, because we know the value of this. And I asked my friend, what can you say about, what do you want me to say? He said, tell them I can have $1,000 in my pocket, but if I don't have blueberries and sage and tea and wild rice, I feel like the poorest person ever. And I said, I understand that, because there's something to be said about gathering this yourself. And that impacted me when she said that she could have $1,000 in her pocket. Because yeah, she could probably go out and buy some blueberries and maybe some, and water and the swamp tea. And people even sell sage. It's not encouraged to do so. So she could go buy those things. But if you don't go and collect those yourself, it's not the same. And I told my mother several years back, this was after the Sandpiper, going through all of this, learning all of this stuff. And I said, Mom, you know, I finally figured out what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be an Anishinaabe. I just want to be an Anishinaabe. And she looked at me, surprised. She kind of smiled at first because oh, my daughter finally knows what she wants to be when she grows up. Well, I'm 46. So, no, I just want to be an Anishinaabe. I want to be able to go there. I want the people behind me, the young people, to discover who they really are. This is who I am. And I understand, yes, I do use oil, I use gas, but I'm trying to change my life to what makes me feel good, to go and gather my medicines, to be able to go get my own water, bring water to my family, to go and harvest this rice. I can do this, and I will continue to do so. But I want to ensure that the next generations, the next 7 generations, can do this also. So I'm going to leave you with that. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Alice Madden, Andy Pearson from Minnesota 350. Andy, if you could come on down, you're on deck. Alice Madden. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and
Thank you.
testimony.
Just my name.
Just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Alice Madden, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. So what you are able to witness today is a very, 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 very small sliver of the time people have put into the PUC process. Please respect that process. It was set up for a reason. I feel very much what you said, Representative Fabian, about the representative from rural communities and the PUC. I think there's a lot of issues about being able to put adequate input into these processes for rural folks who don't live so close to the capital. I can also tell you it's a huge time suck for people who even do live close to the capital. I think just as a general suggestion, having some kind of use of technology like Skype, being able to Skype people in from far away would be a really good use of resources to have a more diverse set of people to be able to come in and share their opinions. So my general position is that I hope that you oppose this bill. I just came from a Senate hearing, a committee hearing over in the other building with more or less the same dynamic, where a massively powerful energy company is asking to monopolize choices, decisions about what's affordable, what's reliable, what's a good decision for our communities, and where we're getting our jobs from. No one in this entire room would say we don't need jobs, except maybe robot technicians, I don't know. But we need jobs, and we should be able to decide what those jobs are. We cannot allow powerful companies who come in from other countries, other states, to decide what those jobs will be and who gets those jobs. And I think what you're witnessing here today is a place where they have so pinned our communities that we're begging for jobs from a company who doesn't care anything about the long-term success of our communities. As you can see with them fast-tracking various other plants, and this is Enbridge, but this is also Xcel Energy, fast-tracking plants for natural gas, for nuclear, which when you think about, do you want to live next to a plant like that? I'm not sure many people would say that they do, and that's often why they get put in poor communities. That's why they get put on tribal land. And that's the consequences that no one sees, but people very much experience. You are here today representing Minnesota, but I would also say you hold in your hands a piece of legislation that impacts people all over the world. You have an enormous privilege, an enormous privilege. The remaining parts of my comments I would just like to direct to you. I really appreciate you bringing forth the bill with the intention that you did, that this is something where you're not sure what else you can do for your constituents. Like what did you just, you're wondering, what are you gonna say to your constituents when you go back to them if this bill doesn't pass, if Line 3 isn't approved through the PUC? And I would say that I share very much that feeling of, and I think a lot of people do, of what am I gonna do? And that's why you see people out at Standing Rock. That's why you see people protesting, which is really just sharing their opinions in a place that doesn't look like they come in a suit and tie and have 75 registered lobbyists. They're sharing their opinion in the only way they know how. And I see this bill as exactly that. The only way you know how to be able to find jobs for your community, which I think is, again, no one can dispute that we need jobs. And what I think the most responsible ethical and long-term, like long-sighted position that I would really ask you to consider is to take back this bill, take it out of consideration, and go back and spend time with your community saying this is going to be really hard. This is going to be a process full of grief, full of new transitions, new skills. But there isn't a future in fossil fuels. And for me to put forward a bill to say, I want to hold out that hope for longer, that we can continue to have this kind of infrastructure, is a lie. And I think it's going to be a really hard lie to come back to process that with your community. But I think it's really necessary, and it's the most honest and most forward-thinking and long-term. I think that's the I guess there's that quote about love being much more dreadful than in dreams. That's what loving your community is saying there is no future in this. We have to do something different, and we get to decide what that is, and we don't let Enbridge do that, or any other company. That unions are representing jobs, they're not representing an industry. Unions are representing the workers. Not saying we're so desperate for any jobs, and I'm not saying, I mean that in the most, like we need these jobs to provide for our family. We need to be able to determine what that looks like so that we don't just have to accept any job that's given to us. And these were good jobs of the past, but now that we know what we know about these industries, this is the reality we have to face. And do we face it now? And who do we let bear the burden of that? So those are my comments. Please oppose this bill and let the PUC continue with its process that it's been doing for 2 years.
Andy Pearson, and then members, we have gone way past our deadline, but I do have a standing rule that when former vice presidential candidates on a national ticket are running, that we hear from them before we recessed. So we'll go with Andy Pearson and then Winona Duke. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with the testimony.
Sure. Thank you so much, Representative Garofalo, members of the committee. My name is Andy Pearson, and I work with the Minnesota 350 organization. And so it's my privilege today to carry with me the voices of thousands of our supporters across the state and tens of thousands of our national affiliate 350.org who've provided input to the process that has happened so far towards reviewing the Line 3 pipeline project. And I want to begin by making just a couple of corrections with all respect, if I may, on the record, to Representative Fabian about the summary of the bill at the beginning. Quick note on St. Cloud, that hearing was canceled because the venue had another event that was going on. At the time, it was not canceled by the ALJ. That's the minor correction. Now, the major correction is that the expert review is finished at this time, because I just don't think that that's true. That the piece of review that remains to be done is called the Tribal Cultural Survey, and it's done. This one will be done by Fond du Lac in cooperation with the Army Corps, and handled by a consultancy that does these issues, and conducted by expert members of Fond du Lac who've been training for this purpose and are the experts in their cultural properties in their communities. And so to say that the expert review is finished and that we have all of that discounts tribal knowledge as anything that we should potentially consider, and certainly cuts it out of the realm of any expertise that's worth looking at as something weighty, something that carries an expert, heft to it. And to me, that's something that I would hope that we would look at differently after learning that knowledge about the cultural survey still being yet to be entered into the record here. Now, we know that it's in process and that it's going to be finished, by the end of summer. And at that point, maybe we could say the expert review is complete, but until that point, we cannot. So it's also been my privilege to travel to many, I believe all, actually, of the hearings that have happened on this project in northern Minnesota and in the Twin Cities for both the environmental impact statement process at the Department of Commerce and the certificate of need and route permit process through the contested case hearing run by Administrative Law Judge O'Reilly. So that's 22 meetings on the EIS and 16 instead of 18, 16 on the certificate of need. And so I'll offer a perspective from having visited those that characterizing it as folks in northern Minnesota overwhelmingly being for the project. You know, y'all say you and I were attending different hearings, and I know that you've attended hearings as well, and I trust that your eyes saw what they saw. But I would mention that you were not at many of the hearings that I was at, and having attended all of them, the overwhelming sentiment, even including much of northern Minnesota, including the majority of the northern Minnesota hearings, was against the project. So it wasn't that way in Thief River Falls. There were more supporters of the project than there were opponents of the project in Thief River Falls. That was one of very few hearings that was that way. So thinking about this not so much even as a northern Minnesota or greater Minnesota versus the Twin Cities issue, but recognizing that people and populations feel differently in different places, and that it's difficult and it's problematic to generalize that folks up north support the project. My direct experience, and I believe that the hearing transcripts would in fact bear me out, that by and large they do not support this project. So what this comes down to is questions of process, and it's questions of trust, right? To me, the conversation about, well, the review is done, the EIS is done, and therefore we have the information that this room needs to make a decision. That's a bit bizarre to me, because it was already noted earlier today that this same bill was up last year in last legislative session when none of the review was done. So if there was an effort to push the same bill last year when none of the review was done, we didn't even have a draft released, I think, at that time. If we did, it was the draft had just dropped. I don't even think we had one because the hearings were in June on the draft. We certainly didn't have a final. We didn't have any of the expert testimony. We didn't even have the interveners finalized. None of that record had been developed. And so if you're in a position now where you're saying you're going to look at that date, I'll say if I wouldn't have known that this was introduced last year, there might have been part of me that would have believed you. But knowing that you were ready to go for it last year without any of that gives me no faith that you would consider taking a look at the rich record that's been developed now. I just don't see it. So issuing the approval this way legislatively without the customary permits wouldn't allow for any conditions, including major conditions that have been raised, even by the Department of Commerce, even saying if you were to go for approval, even though we're recommending not, here are a bunch of conditions that would be very helpful. Those include conditions to protect landowners. Some of them include conditions around pipeline abandonment. We'd be dispensing with any possibility of protecting people through those conditions. That would also leave no permits formally issued for this project other than this bill. And that means that there would be nothing to revoke in the event of anything happening later on where the public would need to be protected, and Enbridge might potentially need to be held accountable by a future state government. Our regulators would not have that tool because no permits would have been issued. We've in fact seen that, and the Department of Commerce has articulated it about the current Line 3 pipeline because it was made before we had our current regulatory process.
Mr. Pearson, just a reminder, you're the last thing standing between us hearing from Ms. Leduc, and I don't want to have to recess the committee without hearing from her, so if you could wrap it up, please.
Understood, and thanks, I'm almost there. The question of need is defined broadly in the law and in the regulations that govern this decision at the Public Utilities Commission, and I don't hear a similar understanding of need from this committee today. That's an understanding of need that takes into account the public good, looks at the overall costs and benefits to society. That's what our commissioners are looking at. That's what the Department of Commerce is making recommendations based on, and I'm not hearing that out of the committee today. I don't think that's even been brought up. So to wrap up, I don't think that we want a process that's a sham or that's a joke. I don't think we want that. passing this bill would make this process a bit of a joke. You know, going back to the question of what should we tell people, what should we tell the people who we're accountable to, what should I tell the people that at this point tens of thousands of people who have spent their time, invested it into this process, what should we tell them? Why should anybody participate in the future when the state of Minnesota asks them for input? What's anybody's incentive to do it if we're that willing to throw it out the window? So please don't. Thank you.
Ms. Leduc? Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with the testimony.
Ani Nindoe Maganatuk, Binisi Kwe Nijinakaz Makwandodium. My name is Winona Leduc. I appreciate this moment to testify. I also came from very far away, I think, as you gathered. I live on the White Earth Reservation. I live a little bit south from Don Goodwin. I want to say you guys should get out more. I don't know what you, I mean, I was in the sugar bush this morning. Great syruping in the state of Minnesota right now. What I'm saying is we got a pretty good place, and I'd like to keep it that way. And if you got out, you could see some of the cool stuff that's going on out there. I just have a few remarks, and I do appreciate your time. I know that you've been here a long time. The first thing I want to say is, just like everyone else in the room, we want a system that works. We put hours, days, a lot of our life, blood, sweat, and tears into this process. We want a system that works, and this would entirely circumvent it. To even suggest such a proposal as this when there are 5 tribes who have intervened in the process, and every Ojibwe tribe in the state of Minnesota has expressed that they do not want this pipeline, and to just kind of shove it down our throats, I feel like saying, y'all, you want to get along or not? At some point, we need to learn how to get along, because we are not going anywhere. There are 7 Ojibwe tribes here. We precede the state of Minnesota, and we would really like to be good neighbors with everyone. Second, briefly on jobs. I do understand some of your concerns. Now, by training, I'm a rural development economist. As some of you may or may not know, I went to Harvard University and to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. My interest is in healthy rural economies. And if you want to look at jobs in the north, this is not your answer. Enbridge will not bring us any more jobs. In fact, I want to just point out the town of Clearbrook, which is in Senator Green's or Representative Green's district. And what I would say there is this, simply. The town of Clearbrook has a large Enbridge terminal in it, an 80-acre Enbridge terminal. And that terminal has 15 employees. That's because most of it is automated. The proposal itself would not bring a lot of new jobs to the state, and I'm just going to give you an example of the town of Clearbrook. This is the story of the town of Clearbrook, which is in December, the nursing home in Clearbrook closed down. It had 50 people who worked there, and none of those people have jobs now. That's many more jobs than Enbridge provided there, and all of the elders who live there are now trying to find a place to go. It's really unfair, but if we want to talk about rural jobs, where are we in pitching for the Good Samaritan nursing home up in Clearbrook to keep elders in their community? That's basically, my concern about it. The other thing I just want to say is that if you want jobs in the north, we could talk about cleanup jobs. Many of the other people have testified, and the fact is that Enbridge points out that it will cost them $2.8 billion to remove the pipe. That doesn't mean new pipe, that's labor. $2.8 billion worth of old pipe to be removed. And I believe that that would be a very good use of their resources and something that would set a good precedent for the other 5 pipelines that they have sitting in northern Minnesota right now, all of which at some point would need to be removed. So if we want to talk about jobs, I would suggest that we look at long-term jobs that would protect our environment and also provide good jobs for iron workers. Finally, I want to say there are a number of other good job opportunities in the north. Some of you have noted, I'm sure, sadly, the tariff that has been placed on solar panels. However, the state of Minnesota has a new solar panel facility that they're building in the Iron Range, which is an excellent idea for jobs in the North Country. My personal suggestion is that we look at long-term jobs that will unify us, not that will separate us in the North. We are all here for the long term, and the fact is that the long-term economic prospects would do better to be a lot of local strong economies where we use less energy and protect more of our environment. And particularly for Thief River Falls. I just want to say one last point on this, is that I know that a lot of people turned up at the hearings in Thief River Falls. I have a state permit to grow industrial hemp. I've been growing industrial hemp for 2 years with a permit from the state of Minnesota. I want to grow industrial hemp for fiber. I want to grow it for a mill. Now, it turns out that there used to be 11 hemp mills in the state of Minnesota until the 1940s, which employed actually thousands of people. And it turns out that Thief River Falls itself used to have a mill which recently closed down, which was a flax mill. Now, what I need is a mill. That mill could be in Thief River Falls, and it could employ a lot of people. So what I'm saying is, let's move to the next economy, one that is not controlled by a Canadian Pipeline Corporation that just gave $5 million in lobbying here to the state of Minnesota. Let's not get involved in that. Let's be the people that make a good economy for the future of our North Country, because I am from the North Country. And finally, let's figure out how to make a civil society in the state of Minnesota that works for all of us. You don't want to look at me for the next 20 years and say, let me just screw the Indians one more time. You don't want to do that. It's not the right thing to do, and this is your opportunity to do the right thing. Miigwech, thank you for your time.
So we have 5 testifiers left, members. It's taken us about 100 minutes to go through 13 testifiers. So my guess is that it would take probably 45 minutes for the next 5. So we're going to recess to the call of the chair until approximately 6:15, 6:20. I'll be in touch with Representative Mahoney for DFL members. Republican members will be in touch with the committee administrator. So we are recessed to the call of the chair, and we'll come back and we'll begin public testimony. Thank you.